We're going to jump to this story. Maybe the last story before we go to Super Chats. Ladies and gentlemen, we made the news. In Trump's trial, a secret fight over a juror's right-wing news source. I love this because this proves to all of you it's a cult. Check it out. They say, E. Jean Carroll's lawyers tried to exclude the man who listened to podcasts by the provocateur Tim Pool. He remained on the jury that found the ex-president liable.
Provocateur is a great word.
Provocateur.
Yeah, I like that.
What do I do? They call Milo Yiannopoulos a provocateur. Well, he goes out, he gives speeches. Do I ever leave this building? Do I make phone calls to anybody? Do I contact members of Congress? Or do I just sit here and have conversations with people?
The beanie is very provocative.
It is.
I have to say.
And evocative.
Both of those. Both evocatives.
Right. Take a look at this. The juror was a 31-year-old man who said he lived in the Bronx for all his life. During jury selection, he said that he tended to avoid news but listened to independent podcasts every now and then, and listed one example. The original transcript inaccurately captured the podcast title as Temple. But lawyers for Ms. Carroll, the writer who filed the lawsuit, according to accusing Mr. Trump of rape, later learned through news reports that the anonymous juror, identified only as Juror 77, had actually said he listens to Tim Pool. Here's the best part. You guys ready for this? Mr. Pool's YouTube channel includes dozens of recordings that push hard right views. His podcast, which has been criticized as a vector for conspiracy theories, is called The Culture War. Well, hold on there a minute. The Culture War is a news show that hasn't been accused of anything because it's never been in the news. Right. It's only been around for about 2 months.
11 episodes.
That's fake news. And I wonder if that's actually defamatory, in that you can argue things about Timcast IRL, the show y'all are watching now, because it's been around for years and has been in the news several times. But the Culture War hasn't been.
No, not at
The
all.
Culture War podcast hasn't been covered by anyone, and I'm surprised they even found it. You know what they did? They searched for Tim Pool podcast and found the Culture War podcast with Tim Pool, which is a new show which has very little viewership relative to this show or even Timcast News.
It's a vector.
A vector.
That's why they said dozens of recordings. Like IRL
Absolutely.
has a bit more than dozens.
Yeah, I think IRL has like 2,000 or something like that. And
Also,
then the Culture War has like 25.
And the morning videos that you do. I mean, you put out a dozen morning videos.
5 videos a day
Right.
on Timcast News. And there's like 3,000 videos.
Also, they don't even mention that you worked for Vice, you're such a lefty on so many other issues. They're like, this far right guy.
Yeah, you would imagine New York Times would do a little bit more research and have figured that out.
I know you wouldn't. Check this out. It says, during the confidential questioning, Juror 77 said that Mr. Pool, quote, is like middle, adding that the podcaster gets different political figures or just celebrities like that on the left, on the right. Juror 77 also described the podcast as balanced. Do you know why he watched this show? Probably because we had like a run-of-the-mill celebrity on the show one time.
Right.
This is a guy who apparently said that he's only seen a few episodes, and it may be because we've had musicians, we've had people like Ethan Suplee on the show, an actor, and we just talked about moderate political issues. We have had people who are totally apolitical who struggle to even talk. But we've had scientists, doctors, but they don't know anything about it.
This is the first show that I've ever watched of yours.
Yeah.
So
the one you're on.
Yeah, the one I'm on.
There you go.
Welcome.
He said that he'd been doing doubles at work and listened to Mr. Pool's show 3 or 4 times in the past 6 months. Said he never had heard of Miss Carroll and was confident he could be fair to both sides. Here's a guy who actually said Trump is liable for sexual abuse, not rape, after almost 30 years. That's amazing. And they're like, that's a fan of Tim Pool who should be removed from the jury. Here's what they said. Look at this. A lawyer for Ms. Carroll said that the juror appeared to get his news from a single, really virulently extremist podcast. It's amazing that I can sit here being like, Trump is wrong about the fraud narrative, and I'm pro-choice. And they're like, he's an extremist. Yeah. But you see what they're trying to do. 2 things. They want to create a bifurcation between me and regular people because they don't want regular people to hear honest commentary from honest people. And well, I mean, I'll leave it at that. That's basically it. To defame and to push people away. So those are the 2 things, I guess.
So he wasn't dismissed.
No. And then he actually sided with them.
Right. And what's the story here then?
I don't know.
I'm really kind of curious why this is actually a story.
Why is it that they ran that story about the Allen, Texas shooter who posted 4 clips of me, and then in the same week They're like a right-wing extremist news source. There's no news here. The guy said he listened to the show 3 or 4 times, and that was the end of it. They didn't dismiss him, and then he sided with them. Why is the New York Times, Politico, the Daily Beast, whoever else, they're all writing this up?
Because they're afraid of you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's because you take their audience, and also you actually do have a lot of moderate view, unlike both mainstream Fox News and all the mainstream left-wing publications. Like, that's just how it is.
That's got to be it, because there's no other reason to say, oh, did you know there was a juror that wasn't dismissed, but he admitted that he watched this show 4 times?
And people are like, people who weren't aware of you or IRL already have heard your name probably because of the Allen, Texas stuff. So New York Times is jumping on this bandwagon that I think they often looked at. I mean, because it's not the first time you've trended. I think people want this show to be something more extreme so they can shun it. They want you to have, every time they Google your name, they want far-right extremist, terrible person to come up.
But it doesn't work.
It doesn't work because you do this show every night and prove them wrong.
They definitely turned Bandcamp off to you.
Well, Bandcamp spreading defamation or something like that. But there's a cult. They're extremists. And the people who watch this show probably already agree with me when we say these people are in a cult. Because you can have a leftist like Lance from the Surfs on the show overtly say he's pro-abortion at any time, for any period, for any reason. Matt Binder, a leftist, say the exact same thing. Sitting next to Seamus Coughlin, a Catholic conservative pro-lifer who wants abortion banned outright, and me saying, well, I think there should be some restrictions, but maybe only after viability, which is the middle. And the person on the left says, you're all far right. Like, if my opinion and you know, is the average opinion based on polling, then what are they talking about? They're just lying. That's what they do. They lie. And I'm partly grateful because this makes it easy to prove they're lying. That's it.
Is there anybody else that has as many diverse people on their podcast as you do?
I mean,
there's
probably
very few, right?
Well, I think Patrick Bet David has way more people across the spectrum.
Because what they really want to do is
he's more
silence everybody, not just you, but silence everybody that you would ever have on, and make sure they can put those people into a box.
Right.
And because, you know, CNN's never going to have those people on. Fox News won't have them on either.
Fox News won't have people on who they're afraid of are associated with people, even if that person has never
like
done it
2
themselves.
layers deep.
Yeah.
They'll be like, yeah, you went to this one party with this guy, you know, like whatever.
I think this is actually, Politico wrote up an even bigger story saying there was inferred bias or whatever. Tim Pool, a far-right pro-Trump commentator who has aligned himself with figures like Steve Bannon. What does that even mean, aligned himself with people like Steve Bannon?
It means you talked to him one time and you didn't scream in his face.
But we on the show, the members only show, we argued about the fraud narrative, and I told him to his face he was wrong.
Yeah.
And I said Trump was unelected. He was anti-elected. People voted against him. And we went in this long thing, and he was like, well, that's an interesting point. And I think he's been on the show twice.
Yeah.
What is this?
You're not allowed to platform it at all.
You're not allowed to
better.
talk to people.
No talking to other people.
It's
think
the
of
association game. Associate him with someone that most people dislike. So make those associations, and like we can then create a box around these people who make commentary with some sense.
Exactly.
When I think of you, the first thing I think of is not he's pro-Trump. Now,
Most people don't.
Yeah, like now I think it's fair if somebody says that they think of me as pro-Trump, because like all I did was make memes about Trump. But for them to call you the pro-Trump extremist is just hilarious. It doesn't fit at all.
They're debunking themselves, especially when we have like Luke Rudkowski on this show for like 7 months at a time, and people say he has Trump derangement syndrome. Or Ian Crossland, who says some of like the craziest leftist stuff half the time, and then rolls 20s the other half. Like it's you know, look, for legal reasons, I'll say this is besmirching my good name, and I am concerned about reputational damage, which we'll be pursuing. But part of me is like, okay, dude, make me more famous. My name's all over the press now, and people are wondering what this is all about.
Yeah.
I love their New York Times writing about the culture war. Great, we need to press.
I was gonna say, you weren't gonna get in there if it wasn't bad press, which all press is good press in a manner.
I mean, I don't even know if it's even bad press. We'll see. I don't know. And they always tell you, like, you get into a car accident, don't say you're fine because you don't actually know what injuries you might have. And there's so many stories where someone gets like T-boned and then like, well, I feel okay, I think we're good. And then a year later, they're like, actually in that accident, you chipped a bone and now you need like a $10,000 surgery or $100,000 surgery. So it's like, we'll see, maybe, but we sponsor ourselves. We're building our own companies. We are member supported. I'm not worried about companies dropping us in terms of sponsorships. I'm not worried about it at all. And now with Twitter, Rumble, competing with YouTube, I'm not worried about YouTube either. There's nothing they can do. They've lost. The things they've said, like when Keith Olbermann's tweeting at me and like this Allen, Texas thing comes up, I'm like, literally don't care what these people think at all. There is no concern I have. None. We have built infrastructure. We are building infrastructure. Rumble is building infrastructure. Elon Musk is building infrastructure. What do we have to be worried about at this point? Say whatever stupid garbage, fine. We'll sue you if it's defamatory and you'll lose.
True.
And it has no impact.
Did Keith come out of retirement to attack you?
He retired?
He's retired like 4 times from Twitter.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.